Welcome to another episode of Built by Us, the podcast where we explore the stories and insights of local entrepreneurs who are making a difference in our community. I'm your host, Jamie Arroyo, CEO of Assets. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Jorge Valentin, also known as Flaco, the owner of Who's Next Barbershop, a cornerstone of Lancaster's barbershop scene since 2005. He has cultivated a community hub that goes beyond haircuts, embracing the essence of faded culture and fostering an environment where individuality and artistry in barbering are celebrated. Let's dive into our conversation and learn more about Jorge's journey, his impact on the local community, and how he continues to set trends in the barbering industry. I love that.
Thank you. I thought it was right for the occasion.
Yeah.
I was like, goat.
I am him.
I am him. Him and not his eye. I was like, no, I'm my own goat in my own way, man. Yeah. There's a lot of goats in Lancaster, but me personally, I'm my own goat.
Well, you have to have that type of energy,
That's
right?
it.
To be competitive. I think, especially in your industry, it feels like it's a competitive sport. Like whenever I think about barbers, I think of competition and the sport, like gladiators are out there.
I think when I was younger, I felt that way.
Yeah.
Now I'm older and I'm more polished. It's like I appreciate what others do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I appreciate like some of the greats and what they do and how they maneuver in and out of situations and it's like, wow, I see your progress. Like I like that. It's like more like a friendly competition.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you work out with somebody every day and you just like, okay, cool, like I can lift more than you and I'm doing this and it's like you're just empowering each other, and that's to me when I look at, you know, other individuals, that's what it does for me. Back in the day, I'm like, oh, I gotta figure this out. Figure this out. Now it's more or less like, okay, cool, I like that.
Yeah.
How can I polish that and make it better?
That's interesting. I think, when you're younger, you feel like competition is almost like a negative and you get older, it's actually more of a positive thing. Mm-hmm. Iron sharpens iron. So we're competing, but how are we making each other better in that competition?
It's crazy to talk about that. My keychain says iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. Nice.
You know? So
that's good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So who inspires you? Like when you say some of the greats, who are some of those folks?
There's one of the greats is my mother. Mm-hmm. The second great is Champ Hall, that owns a barber school. I also had inspirations along the way. Had my boy Ahmed Corso, Tyree Jackson. These are individuals that, you know, I cut beside. To see them grow as I grew, and the levels that we are, and different types of levels too. Those are things that inspire me in just by itself. But I think the biggest one was my mother and how she really like attacked certain things and stuff like that. So
yeah, love that. You mentioned Tyreek, Champ, Ahmed, and so for the folks listening, you're my personal barber.
Yes.
And you know, when you grow up, you don't have too many memories of your childhood, right? You start to lose some of that. But I still remember my first cut, and it was my pops dropping me off at Champ's, and you know, I'm waiting to get a haircut, and I specifically was waiting for you, because I remember Robert Diaz, right? Me and him went to middle school, and he's like, yeah, you know, if you want to get a good haircut, you got to go see Flaco at Champ's. It's like, who is this guy? So first time I go there, drops me off, and I'm waiting there. I'm just like this scared little boy, like, what am I doing here? And I still remember you cutting my hair. It was when I had the bangs and all. You cut everything off.
The number 2, number 3 or something like that.
Yeah, but I was 11 years old.
Wow.
So you've been cutting my hair since then.
Yeah.
So tell me about your origin story. When did you, because you didn't start at Champs.
No, I didn't.
So when did you start cutting hair?
I started cutting hair at the age of 14. I was in my mother's basement. I was trying to figure out how to make money. The crazy thing about it, me and my brother used to fill out applications. Remember when the LAP used to be on Lincoln Highway?
Yeah.
Well, I filled out an application there, never got hired. But my brother did, and he only lasts 2 weeks. So every application I applied for, he always lasts 2 weeks. And I'm like, I want to work. So, you know, that was the beginning stage of that. And then I was getting a haircut by a guy named Coey. He was a local barber. He used to cut hair in his house and stuff like that. So I started seeing, you know, the way he held the clipper and the way he was like, you know, maneuvering in and out. And I was like, you know, this is like it's very creative, like artsy. And I was really good at drawing and stuff like that, and I was artsy. And I picked that up, and I actually asked him for a couple of pointers. And he goes, "You want to cut hair?" I was like, "I don't know what I want to do, but it's very interesting." And then he's like, "Oh, just a pair of clippers, da 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 da, et cetera, et cetera." So I was like, "All right, cool." So he really didn't give me all the detail. I don't think everybody gives you the sauce. You know what I mean? So at that moment, I realized, okay, cool, that's something I want to do. I'm interested. So I told my brother, I said, "Hey, I want to cut hair," and it was more like a laugh from him, like, "You want to cut hair? Like, who wants to cut hair?" I think people just lose the vision of certain things, but I always had that type of vision, so I was like, I want to cut hair. So long story short, his friend noticed that I wanted to cut hair, so he grabs me a pair of clippers. I don't know what he did. I don't know if he stole them or if he bought them. He said, "Hey, I got a pack of clippers. I got them from Walmart."
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, I just think he just wanted a haircut. So I just cut him up, and I don't know what I did. It was bad. So from there I just started picking up different things. Started realizing that the clippers that I had didn't have a lever. So it was just clipper over comb, and I was leaving lines all over it, and and then that's where it all began. And I was charging $5 a haircut to help buy my products, my clippers and stuff like that. So
Nice.
yeah.
So how did you end up at Champs? Because you were still in high school when you were working there.
Yeah. So it was crazy you say that, because my name, it was weird. My name started ringing, around town. Hey, there's a little Puerto Rican guy cutting hair in the basement, and
I heard there was a line out the door.
Yeah. Mom was actually so mad because when it used to rain, they used to have a puddle, like a trail of footsteps going down to the basement, and she used to scream at me. But it kept me sane because I never went nowhere. I just cut hair. So from that part on, it was just more like, he was hearing out in the street. So I think he was doing a girl from high school. Her name was Jackie Gomez. And he did her eyebrows, and he was like, "Hey, do you know Flaco, this guy that cuts hair?" She was, yeah, he's a good friend of mine. And that's when I got introduced to Champ,
Gotcha.
so, and that's how everything else,
Yeah.
Developed.
That's dope. Yeah, because I think about, you were still in high school,
Yes.
cutting hair at Champs.
Yes.
And it's so cool you mentioned those names again, Tyreek, Ahmed, and these are all guys that have gone on to start their own barbershop.
Absolutely.
Some of them start their own barber schools. But at one point, all of you guys were cutting hair in one shop together.
Yes.
And I think
yes.
that's pretty cool. What do you think was the magic there, or what was happening at that shop at the time that made you all think like entrepreneurs and want to do your own thing?
I think it wasn't. It was more or less that we all had something special. I think it was more or less like we all got it. Like it was we can own our barbershops, and we can create our own personal vision of what we want in characters or individuals. But I think all of us together was like, we knew the chemistry. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, Joel was an entrepreneur. We just clicked. They just got it.
Yeah.
Like, Champ didn't need to do anything. It was more or less, we need toilet paper, we're gonna get it. The shop needs painted, we're gonna paint it. Hey, Champ, we need a new floor, we'll put it in together. Whoever puts the floor in, this is what we're gonna do. You get the first chair or you get the second chair. We just had that vision of, like, we understood the concept. And I think it's very rare to find barbershops like that. It just, that's why you can tell these guys have their own business. It was all the Champ had nothing to worry about. You know what I'm saying? So, it would have been cool if he would have franchised Champs and gave us all barbershop. You know what I mean? Then it'll be different. But that's me thinking business now. But it was that's why I think the chemistry was there. We always hung out with each other. It was just, just bounce off ideas and just help the business in general, help Champ out as much as we could. And then I think Joel decided to leave. And then Ahmed decided to leave. And then I decided to branch off and get my get my business.
Yeah. Something that I think about as you're talking is drive, right? So you talked about we're going to get toilet paper if we need to get toilet paper. We're going to go put the floors in if we have to. And even now, your own shop, whenever you're doing some remodeling, it's you doing it.
Yes.
Like I'll drive by and I'll see you in on a Sunday. What is Flaco doing in on a Sunday? And you're doing the work yourself, right? What's that drive? Do you think that's necessary to be successful as an entrepreneur?
I think every entrepreneur has a drive. It all depends on, what vision you have. My drive is a constant work. Like I love working. I love doing new things. I love being creative. I think that's where my strong points are, being really creative, creating ideas, creating concepts, me designing my shop and adding constantly, different ideas. I think it creates I don't get boring. I love what I do. And when you love what you do what you love. And to me, I think the biggest thing with a lot of people, they stop loving what they do once they get to a certain level. And to me, it's like I always want to chase that love, that passion. Even if I decide not to cut hair no more and do something else, I still need to do it with passion. I just can't just do it because, it's going to be lucrative. It's more or less because that passion creates that drive. That drive creates that energy. That energy creates that levelness of, of like, what? I created something. I did something and I achieved it, so.
Yeah. Do you think people get too comfortable sometimes and that's why they lose that love, that passion for something?
Yeah, I got comfortable one time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So when I first opened up the shop, I was doing designs and all that and haircuts. So haircutting started becoming like a regular job. There was no passion, no love behind it. It was just like, all right, I own a shop. I'm a business owner. What's next for me? You get stuck. You get into them that plateau. I was never taught business. I was never taught how to continue elevating your mind or or read, or just find different books that you can read and really like create that palette of energy to maneuver, or what if there's a level that you can achieve beyond just cutting hair. All I knew how to do was cut hair. Just pick up a pair of clippers, cut hair, open up a business, maybe put a few barbers in there. And that, it wasn't happy. There was no happiness in that. It was just, okay, I'm a business owner. Okay, cool. So then hair shows came about. And that's what sparked my energy again. Going to a hair show, a trade show, seeing people cut hair, doing designs, winning competitions, that created that energy again. And I was like, you know what, I won't ever lose that fire. And that's why I say I'm constantly in competition with myself. And that's what I found. That deep-rooted emptiness was, I need competition. I need to create that drive. What can I do next? So once you find that and you find who you really are, everything else is just level up.
That's interesting. Because you go to you do hair shows, you do a lot of education sessions all across the country, cut celebrities' hairs. Like you're doing all these types of things. Is that how you find inspiration in the work?
I find the drive in it. The inspiration, comes with it. What I mean? It's just automatically there because the creativity is still constantly there. I think a lot of times is networking and meeting new people to give you that energy. I think, sometimes we be around the same people. They always say, who you surround yourself is who you become. So, I feel as though when we lack that, and we're the smartest person in the room, there's no growing power. So I feel as though if we are around individuals, to be crazy is a lot of my clients, they're actually those impact people like yourself. I got Zach from Damage, I got, I used to cut Tony from Yorgos, Gus. I cut all these guys and they're impactful. Caruso, not even Caruso's Pizza. All these guys that have their own niche, their own energy, and these are the people that I can give a call and I can ask for advice, and they keep that energy moving. And they always say, surround yourself with great people and you become great, and these are the people that I surround myself with constantly. So that's what creates that spark. And
Oh, that's cool. This episode is built by Edwards Business Systems. EBS is a family-owned company that has been providing superior office technology and services for over 70 years, specializing in multifunction printers, wide format and industrial print solutions, as well as managed IT and other print programs. With a focus on streamlining business processes, EBS ensures that clients have the technology and support they need to thrive in today's competitive environment. What are some challenges that you faced along the way? So, you mentioned getting comfortable at one point. What are some challenges that came up along the way?
I think when I first opened up the shop, it was the biggest challenge because after remodeling it and stuff like that, and I had 4 barbers, I only had $100 to my name. That was like the most challenging thing. Like, oh wow, I really have to cut myself out of paper bag. You know what I mean? So I think that was one of the challenges in my life that a lot of people don't know. I think that was one of the bottom lines is like only had $100, can't believe it, to my name after I remodeled the shop. We didn't have, things like assets to help us, build at that time. So, yeah.
What do you do to mentor some of the barbers that you work with now? So you've gone through this journey, right? You've learned from folks like Champ or the folks that were around you. When there's a new barber in your shop, what are you doing to mentor them or make sure that they're following a good path to maybe be their own entrepreneur one day?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's more they already know what they're getting themselves into when they go into an establishment like that, or if they would have picked a different shop. I think there's rules, there's a blueprint to follow. I think at this moment in time, I have a great group of guys. I mean, you met them.
Yeah.
I mean, other piece of work. But it's all a nice, good click, as I call it. Everybody has their own different personality. And, sometimes you can fit with the group and sometimes you don't fit with the group. And I think that's the biggest thing about business is sometimes, we can teach you, I can sit here and mold you to the person, you can be, but it's up to you to help, mold yourself.
Yeah.
And, sometimes, we lose barbers and sometimes we gain barbers. And I think that's what, it's the aspect of business. But in that short sense is we all collectively in the shop help each other out to mold new barbers and make them feel comfortable. To make it feel like family. We go out to eat together, we chill, we hang out and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Are you able to identify when a new barber comes in and whether or not they're going to fit in or not?
Yeah, if they don't have thick skin.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because, we joke around a lot. We joke around. We family oriented. It's like, I feel as though if I can't argue with you, we can't create chemistry. Yeah. If we can't debate, we can't create chemistry. I feel as though, some of the best friends, we argue. Like, we're going to have arguments. We're going to be mad at each other. But at the end of the day, we come together at the end and say, I love you, bro. Shake, dab each other up and keep it pushing. I think that's what creates that spark. If we're always happy with each other, it's like,
it's not authentic.
Yeah. So I think if we debate and we can have, not full-blown out arguments, just good, friendly competition arguments. Yeah. And we can bend the rule a little bit and understand each other. I think that's what creates a good team.
Yeah. I think of attitude a lot within a team, right? Like someone's attitude of whether or not they can, being positive is one thing, having a growth mindset is another, but also being able to take feedback is something critical. Have you noticed that, how do folks receive feedback when you give it to them? Is that something that you pay attention to or?
Yeah. I think every individual has a different approach. I think we can't like, for example, let's say I could speak to you and I could speak to you, tough, and you'll take it. You take the criticism. I think it's knowing your room and the energies in your room. So if I have a barber that I know he won't be able to handle that conversation out in the open, I'll pull him to the side. But if I know he's a barber that he can handle the conversation out in the open and he won't take it personally, and then I'll address the room, But I think it's just knowing the people you have around you. But that comes with, like I said, picking them apart, understanding, having fun, taking them out to eat, or just having conversation in the shop, to know who's serious and who's not serious, who will be offended. And I love every individual one of my barbers, so I want to understand them also as an owner. You know, sometimes us owners we create the blueprint of that's it. You know, I don't want to understand you. You ain't doing the right job. Get out. I think, you know, barbering's different. You can't find a really good barber all the time. So molding someone, you know, and teaching them and say, hey, bro, you know, this is how you run business. This is, you don't speak to your client that way. You know, this is how you speak to them. You can always get your way. It's just the way you word it. You know, so
I think it's interesting because you're talking about barbering as a team sport, and I'm starting to think about, you know, I love my barber, right? He's a great guy, but the environment that I go into is just as important, right? So if I go into a barbershop and the community doesn't feel good, I could have the best barber in Lancaster, right? But if it doesn't feel good, if I'm uncomfortable in the environment, I probably won't come back as a customer.
Absolutely.
Right? So it seems like you're trying to set the tone through teamwork to make sure that there's a good environment for the clients that come in.
And with that being said, it's like almost with music, certain type of music. Hey, you know, there's a kid here. Watch out. Like I let my barbers play around a little bit, but you know, just because I want them to feel free. Also, I don't want them to feel like you know, this is, you love what you do. You do what you love. If you don't love what you do anymore, you're not gonna do it. You know what I mean? So it's like as long as they do it controllable, I'm fine with that. You know, so
good.
It's been working.
Marketing, like when I think about, you know, one of your greatest strengths, I think you do a great job with just like building a brand as a barber. And this is something that has developed over years. I mean, back in the day was the Amish barber, right? Tell me about this.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go back. So tell me about how the Amish barber came about.
Okay, so doing the hair shows, I was like, you know, I need to create an idea. I need to figure something out. And I'm like, you know, I call it Amish country. You know, one time I went to a hair show that was like, where you from? I said, Lancaster. It was like, horse and buggies? I said, no, there's a city there. I got offended. I was like, there's a city there.
Don't we all?
Yeah, I mean, we sharp. So, you know, I think I picked off that, and I went to a guy named Illusion. He's actually local from here. He lives in California now. He bakes barber capes now. He's really killing the game. He's doing barber capes. He actually has, I think, contract with the NBA now, doing capes too. So he did the design for me, and it was my face. And I used to have a big beard with a blonde, you remember, blonde stripe, and I had a pitchfork and a hat, and we called it Amish barber, and that went off, and that was there for a season, and then you know, had a couple bumps in my road, and I stopped doing hair shows for a little bit, and then that just kind of died out.
But how important is building a brand as a barber and being able to market yourself in that way?
I think it's very, very important, especially with the free, you know, platform we have. We have Instagram, Facebook. These are all free platforms. You know, we got Twitter, TikTok, you know, Popcast, you know, everything you can possibly think of. If you can't, you know, figure that out, you know, at least figure one out, you know, and try to master that. There's so many avenues that you can promote your business. Like back in the day, we didn't have that. You know, we just had handing out flyers. I remember I was putting flyers on cars. You know, and then someone called me back, hey, you stained my windshield up. I'm like, oh, shoot. You know what I mean? I got to pay for this guy's windshield. And, you know, then I stopped that. And I was like, how can I be more marketable? And then I started handing out flyers, you know, but handing out so many flyers, we talk about, you know, clubflowers.com, you get 1,000 flyers. It's heavy, you just handing them out, you know.
Expensive.
Absolutely. So, you know, it's just, it's now I take one image, create it, post it, and it posts through Facebook, Instagram, all my networks, just on one post. Paid for ads, hashtags, AI. Write your whole description up, post. These are things as a barber we don't use, but I use them, you know, for my advantage. So it's like I can take a post, create a post right now. We in minutes we live, you know, and I think that's what a lot of barbers need to understand, that it's a different wave now. You know, the clientele before was a lot harder to achieve. If you're not cutting hair now, it's because you're lazy. You know what I mean? It's not because the market ain't there. The market is there. it just, you just got to know the fundamentals.
Yeah. I think this was years ago, but it just sticks in my brain. I remember one time there was a barber just, I think they were in between clients just sitting there. And I remember you saying something to the effect of, you shouldn't just be sitting there. You should be marketing yourself right now. Use this time to market yourself. And that stuck with me because it's just like, even in, quote unquote, dead time, how do you make it, Robert Greene calls it alive time. So rather than just not doing anything, how are you taking advantage of these moments? And it sounds like whenever you weren't cutting hair, you were still working on the business, whether that was building the brand, marketing, posting, communicating with your clients. You were just always active in doing something. And it seems like that's what allowed you to really, continue to do what you do.
And I think that helps anybody elevate, I think it's just more or less like, I have guys like Zach from Zamage, marketing genius. I mean, you can sit down with him; he'll give you everything. He taught me so much, also, and that's why it says knowing who to surround yourself with helps you execute. And we sit down and cut his hair, and he tells me, "Hey, man, you need to market this, or this is the way you market it." And and we bounce off, but he's just so knowledgeable with that. Like, he helps me out so much. I think that's what separates that marketing tool of being a barber to like the next level. For example, QR codes. You scan my QR code. You see, you pull up to my light in my shop, there's a big QR code on my little outside advertisement. You could be in the car, snapshot it, book appointment. You know what I mean? So it's just finding ways instead of the www.who'snext.com. You scan it, it's new, and I caught that early because I went to a restaurant and QR code right in the center. I say, "Hey, where's the waiter?" "Oh, just scan it. That goes the menu." And I scan it, and you could order all your food through your phone. Crazy, genius, So I took that and just, what? How can I incorporate that in my business? Now, we have so many hipsters out here. We have so many, young guys who are hip to that stuff. So scan that. Let's go. Let's make moves.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing I like about the way you handle your business too is instead of going wide and doing a bunch of different things, you go deep with your business, and that's you found ways to market or develop your own products. Tell me about some of that stuff that you worked on, whether it was the razor blades or your partnership, I believe, with Kiss.
Yes.
Ooh, so, So like
you're going deep.
Yeah.
All right. So like I decided when I started doing the hair show, I started going to the trade shows. Trade shows, they help you out, create that vision. Like I said, I love that artsy stuff. So I started seeing companies with beard products. I seen companies with razors, and they're putting their own logos on them. I'm like, dude, I never thought of that. Like, and then I came back home and created my own first J Valentin razor. And then I branded. Then I sold a ton of them. And then I created a J Valentin bracelet. And then I sold a ton of them. And then it just kept going. And I decided to create a company called Dead Stock Beards. And then we developed the beard serum and stuff like that, the hydrate spray, the beard cream. We sold a ton of that. And these are just ideas that just came about just to create. And then I got introduced with this color product called Kiss Colors. And I think I was before its time when it came out. Because my manager now, I asked him about 10 years ago about it. Hey, I think this company needs to put barbers on. It was like, there's not a niche in the barber industry for it. And I was like, no doubt. So then 5 years later, they decided to create a barber side. And I was the first phone call. And they called me and they said, hey, we want you to help research and help develop some products for us. And now I'm part of their product development side. Also their educator, their main barber educator, and their platform, artist. And so I developed the beard products that are in stores now. It's called Kiss Color Cover for beards or men with like great hair. Those are my pictures on those products. The Kiss bottles, the new bottles, I helped create them. The J Valentin brush, I helped develop that. And so many people, it's crazy you asking me this because a lot of people don't know about this. So, and then we created a clipper together. And that's the clipper that I platform. And I helped develop that clipper. We sat down. Went Clipper reviews, checked it out, motors, and now we have one of the A-list Clipper out right now, and I'm so grateful because we just was developing, and I'm like, I don't like these.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just more like they're cool, but I don't like them. They're a little bulky.
Yeah.
So now we, it's called the X King that came out, and it has a 10,000 RPM motor. We're talking about 420 running time speed. So lithium battery. It's 4 hours running time. C charger, so the same charger you charge your iPhone with is the same charger you put that thing in there. The DLC blade is pretty cool, man. Like it's cool to. I can't believe I came from the basement of cutting hair, and now with a $1 billion brand company to help develop. Yeah. And I'm in board meetings and Bow Wow's, brush, and I like it curved. I don't like it round, you know what I mean? And they're like, all right, cool. And they run back out, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like a lot of people don't know these things because I stay, so quiet, but yeah, I'm glad you know these.
Yeah, I pay attention. I listen when you're cutting my hair. But it's cool because even those details, right? Like you can't start at that level, right? Like you couldn't from the basement go right to the boardroom and start saying, look, I need, these clippers need to have a regular iPhone charger because my phone's right there and I need to be able to clip up real quick. I can't have 3 different chargers here, or I needed to have the RPM. I have no idea what any of that meant, but I figured it helps you cut better, right?
Cutting speed.
Right. So it's like that type of stuff you had to get the reps in over years and years of cutting hair to be able to influence a design, right? And I don't think people realize how much work has to go in to get to that point.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of development, a lot of years. I could have easily went with a different brand of clipper company that already had something developed, but these guys took me in and they showed me so much love. It's like I'm here for the long haul. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, people come up to me all the time. Hey, what's going on? Let's do this. Nah, I'm cool. I'm sticking with sticking loyalty.
Love that. So how does entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur, transfer to being a family man, right? You have kids, daughters in high school, graduating soon.
About to graduate soon.
About to graduate soon. So how does that translate to being a father? How does all that translate for you?
It's a juggle. I think it's knowing how to create some sort of a blueprint. Like, okay, cool. I wake up in the morning. Okay, I make sure my daughters have a newborn now. Make sure I help my wife out. It's just organizing my life, and then go to work, and then come home and get an hour rest time to settle because I'm business minded. Come home to be a father. So that juggle, we were just speaking about it earlier. It was just, it's understanding like, okay, cool. I am a father. I have to turn that off, from an owner, business person, come home and be nurtured, learn how to nurture and learn how to hold and just have fun and just, those are the things that really, besides cutting hair, those are my inspirations, is to come home and have that time with my kids. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and a little boy coming soon too.
Oh yes, so, yes. Now that's a whole new goal.
Yeah.
I got my son.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the vision for you? You've gotten up to this point, a lot of experience, and you're someone that has always been an idea person. You've always been thinking about the next thing, right? What's up for you in the next?
I think my next thing is to create a long-term deal with Kiss Company, and also to not be a owner operator, to be a owner. And to remove myself from the business and let the business run itself. And now I stepped my foot into real estate flipping. I was in real estate, but I didn't do the flipping part. And I should be having my first property in the market in 2 weeks.
Nice, congrats.
And thank you. So that's another avenue I want to start. It starts challenging me now because the fact of the creativity of it. So it's just like those are things that are for the future, and me raising my son, and having more time with him. So
love that.
Yeah.
So last question for you. When when you think about, 14-year-old, Jorge Valentin, he's 14, he's thinking about cutting hair. If you could go back in time and give him, some piece of advice, what would that be?
To stay focused, to invest properly. I think a lot of us barbers don't. And, to mold him to a better version of myself. I would love to see him be better than me. I think a lot of people, would love that, to see your own child to be a better version of yourself. And, not to do what I do, but just create his own lane. Just be better. You know what I mean?
I lied. That's not going to be the last question. But you said something, and I was just like, man, we've had way too many conversations about this not to talk about it here. But finances, personal finances, and how that, that can make or break anybody, right? Personally, entrepreneurs and stuff. How important is that for barbers to think about, setting up themselves well from a personal finance perspective?
I think that's like the biggest. I think that's very, very important. I think, me having, you as a client, prime example, you are very organized with that stuff. To, give me, your opinion on how to start your year off in the middle, get your 6-month mark and start preparing yourself for the beginning of the year. Those are the things that, like I said before, just knowing who you have around you help you out so much, and, where to put your money in good places, and how to make your money work for you. Instead of spending your money, to live, not beyond your means, but, be mindful, you know what I'm saying, on how you spend your money, and create budgets, and, pay your taxes.
Yes.
A lot of barbers
pay
don't
your
pay
taxes.
their taxes. Pay your taxes,
Pay your
if
taxes.
you want to develop, you want to grow, you want to own real estate, pay your taxes. So, those are important things. And, right now I want to get myself a coach, and really, structure myself, on not financially, but just more mentally, and really stay focused. I was smoking a cigar the other day, and there was 3 guys sitting. By the way, this guy owns Lap Electric, so it was pretty cool. What I mean? So they were talking about this development idea they was trying to create. And I was talking to my fiance and said, hey, babe, you don't mind if I can hang up the phone, because this is an interesting conversation. She goes, go ahead with your extrovert self. So I was like, all right. So I hung up the phone and I started talking. I said, dude, that's an amazing idea. They said, hey, what's your name? I said, so-and-so. I gave them all my information. Like, hey, come on, sit down and let's talk. So, I'm just picking their brains, man. I'm talking about our conversation was so and like blew my mind. It was like, these are the people that I need. This is the energy that I need to keep moving, and that was like it was like a taste of like something that I never had, like a dopamine. It was like, yo, this is what I've been looking for. And it's like, to sit down and talk to these guys, we're talking about people who are just killing the game, and for him to say, yeah, I have a coach. For real? Yeah. We all have coaches. I said, what? My coach ain't even in from Lancaster. He's from out of town. You know what I mean? So it's just these people, like, they're just like us, just regular, nonchalant, cool. We'll probably look at them different, but it's like, wow, like this is inspirational. Like, this is something that, it's on a whole nother level. And that's where I feel as though, like, that those are my next moves. Yeah.
I love that. And it's a good reminder to know that you'll never know everything. Yes. Right. So, whether it's books you read, whether it's having a mentor, whether it's being surrounded by friends that are challenging you, or hiring a coach to figure out, what are some skill sets that I need to do better. It's just good to always remember that, because you're never done, you're never done. So, well, Flaco, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you for joining us today. And I just appreciate everything you've done. Your journey's been amazing, and I'm glad to be a small part of it. But
man, I'm just glad you my client, and you've been good friends with me for years, man. And to watch you grow, and then do your thing and level up. It's amazing. I'm proud of you, bro.
I appreciate you. Awesome. Thank you, bro. That brings us to the end of another episode of Built by Us. A huge thank you to Jorge Valentin for sharing his inspiring story and the work he's doing to build community and confidence through Who's Next Barbershop. Don't forget to join us next time as we continue to highlight the stories of local entrepreneurs who are shaping our future. Until then, I'm Jamie Arroyo, and this is Built by Us.
This is the Built by Us podcast, brought to you by Assets. Visit us at assetspa.org to learn more about the products and services we provide, and you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube.